We're going to talk mostly about the first lesson from Genesis and the Gospel. But first, just a comment or two about the epistle. Did you know that Paul was an environmentalist? I don't think so. They weren't even existing in that time. But this text of Paul, when he says all of creation is groaning, is the very words that people who are active in environmental concerns say. The earth is groaning under the weight of what we humans do to it. Now, unfortunately, people have gotten license from a misinterpretation of the biblical story to think that what we do, creation, is just quite all right. Remember in the creation story when Adam and Eve were told to till the garden and all of creation was created? What did God say to them? How were they commissioned? They were told to dominate and subdue the earth. Those are English translations of the Hebrew, but probably more accurate than what we want to acknowledge. Well, what does it mean to dominate and subdue the earth? Well, in our own day, what do the miners do? They carve off the top of mountains to get to the coal that's underneath. That's dominating and subduing the earth, isn't it? They put oil lines under waterways that already are beginning to leak. That's dominating and subduing the earth. So, Paul connecting to creation, now it's out of a different theological context, but there might be more to Paul than we have often acknowledged. So, now to Jacob and the Gospel. There are two twin stories in the early part of the Bible in Genesis. And twins don't do very well with each other. The first two twins are Cain and Abel. Who's the good guy? Abel. And he gets killed by his brother Cain. That's not a very good story. So then we have the second set of twins, Jacob and Esau. Who's the good guy?
Jacob.
Huh? Jacob. We think of Jacob as the good guy, don't we? Because we talk about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But let's face it, if you look at the reality of Jacob's life, he was a scoundrel. He lied. He got his own way. He used his women, his wives, as cannon fodder. Jacob was not a good guy. But we think of him as a good guy. Because don't we tend to look at life in terms of who are the good guys over here and who are the bad guys? I'm sorry. You're not all bad guys. But we look at life that way, don't we? And don't we make interpretations that way? Well, that's the context for hearing this parable about the sowing of wheat. Now, just so you remember, and I know you all know this, but I'm just going to remind you. Well, you've got a cast on your arm, my goodness.
No, not a cast.
Well, whatever.
Just slung up.
Slung arm. Matthew puts together his gospel with 5 big speeches of Jesus. So there was Sermon on the Mount, the first one, right? And then we went through his instructions to the disciples, the mission text, And then Matthew 13 is the third of these. It is all kingdom parables, 7 of them. So you might, since we only heard one of them today, your homework today or sometime is to read the whole chapter 13, because you get all of these kingdom parables together. And keep in mind that the kingdom, as Jesus was referring to it, is not something about what happens to us when we die or what happens to the earth after the second coming. The kingdom talk of Jesus is about the here and now. So, in this story, which appears only in the Gospel of Matthew, although it also appears in the Gospel of Thomas, the farmers sow seed. We know that kind of thing, right? And then as the seed comes up, weeds appear. How many of you are farmers or gardeners? Familiar stuff, right?
Yeah.
As soon as you plant the seeds, you go and look at them and think, oh, these little rows, stuff is coming up, and they're surrounded by weeds. So the people, the slaves, say to the farmer, didn't you plant good seed? Well, yes, I did. Well, where did these weeds come from? Now, we would tend to say weeds are weeds, they just come. But in the Gospel of Matthew's version, the enemy sowed them. Now, who's the enemy? Well, the enemy is the one that does bad stuff. We all know that there's bad stuff going on. There's bad people. They're the enemy. And so in this parable, there's a polarization between the good wheat and the bad weeds. And so what do they want to do? They want to pull up the bad stuff. Isn't that what we do with our gardens? You know, as soon as it gets tall enough, we pull out the weeds, or I do anyway. But Jesus says, no, let it be. Our propensity as humans is to want to get rid of whatever we have defined as bad. Now, in the recent history of this country, who was bad before the last election? Obama, right? He was vilified by certain quarters of this country. He was bad. Now who's being vilified? Because we tend to look at life that way. There's bad people and there's good people. And the punchline of this story is to say it's not our business. It is our business to get involved in correcting those things that destroy the kingdom of God. But we're not to destroy the bad people who we define as the bad people, because that's God's work. That's what God does. That's part of the liberating news, if you wish, out of this story. And to push it a little bit further, the badness and goodness is right within us. And if we're honest with ourselves, we know that. The enemy comes at night, right? What does night symbolize? It symbolizes the unconscious. That part of our life that we don't want to deal with. We deal with our conscious life, but we don't want to deal with the unconscious. And it's out of the unconscious that the evil comes. And it's right within us. And so, just as we don't want to kill off the bad people of our world, we can't kill off the evil. We can only pay attention to our spiritual journey, and especially to those parts of our journey that's the unknown, our unconscious part. So, that's this one parable. You can go home and read read the rest of them. The first one was last week when we were at the Sudanese service, and we'll hear a couple more of them next week. Amen.